Hey everyone, welcome to our September 3rd Thursday chat with the board. We have some of our fun NC Normal board members here tonight. I've got my friend Lauren Gill, our Deputy Director.
Hi.
Welcome to our Corin, our Treasurer. Thursday chat with the board. Hey everyone. And Dylan's working behind the scenes. He's our Secretary. Fun NC Normal board members. We've got some updates tonight before we kick it over to our guest. Welcome to Lauren, would you like to run us through that? Thursday chat with the board.
Yeah, of course. So first of all, want to remind everyone that we have another opportunity for our advocacy training. We completed one of these events pretty recently, had a good turnout of people. So we'll be having another event coming up on the 4th Sunday of this month, the 27th. It'll be at 1 p.m. And if you'd like to RSVP to sign up for one of our great advocacy training events, then go to our website, ncnormal.org. You can select the Effective Advocacy tab and scroll all the way to the bottom to complete the Action Network RSVP form. That will send you the confirmation. That'll send you the information on how to join us virtually via Zoom. And we definitely hope to see you there. We'd also like to give a special shout out to our newest gold level member for his donation. So thanks to Patrick Oglesby. For some of our other members, we have all of the t-shirts sent out for the My NC Cannabis Stories. So for those are for just a reminder for everyone, for people who had submitted stories, we're really grateful. We were able to send some really great t-shirts, and there is a new section of our website that's devoted to those stories that we're receiving from across the state. So please check it out. And if you're feeling inspired, share your own story. You can get a great t-shirt from that. So we really would appreciate that. Also, if you've ever wondered if you have something to offer to the movement, maybe you're not sure which area of activism you fit into, there is a place for you. And we've actually recently gone through and redone our volunteer process to make it really easy for you to get involved. So if you just go to the Get Involved section on our website, you can enter your information, make sure you're signed up for our email lists, and you'll also get an email on our orientation sessions. We have them on the second Sunday of every single month. So if you fill out that Get Involved form, you can also go on our Action Network page and just RSVP for those events at any point. So we will be looking forward to seeing a lot of you on the second Sunday of this month. You should also make sure that you're following us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, just to make sure you're staying updated for everything. We like to boost about a lot of these events sometimes, just to give you those reminders as well and share information about all of the content we already are creating for you. We have our weekly nuggets, and we'll boost those and give you those reminders so that you can make sure that you're checking out that great information. Right now, our coming up theme for October is going to be the theme of simply voting. So we'll have a lot of information to cover on that. Make sure you're following us so that you receive that. Our current theme for the month of September is active and voting cannabis advocate. So as cannabis advocates, we have to be prepared to vote by learning about different candidates on our ballots. So tonight for our chat, we have decided to focus on one particular race. And the race that we'll be talking about tonight is Commissioner of Agriculture. I have Ann, who's going to share with us a little bit more about our focus here. Ann, so I'll turn it over to you. If you want to unmute yourself so we can hear you.
Okay, yes, super. So one of the reasons that we decided to focus on the Commissioner of Agriculture is we hope that you've all been following our Smoke the Vote updates and keeping in touch with what the various incumbents and candidates feel or have to say about cannabis. But unfortunately, we were not able to get the Commissioner of Agriculture race on that page. We've got, as far as statewide races, we've got all the General Assembly. We have the governors, the lieutenant governors, and the candidates for Attorney General, but we were not able to get the Commissioner of Agriculture added to Smoke the Vote. So we decided that's something we really wanted to focus on. And we sent out an email to Commissioner Troxler and to Jenna Wadsworth. We've tried to follow up with Troxler's campaign several different ways, tried to find a phone number for him, reached out to him on his Facebook campaign page, as well as the email, and just have not heard back from him. But we are going to let him know that he missed the opportunity, and if he would like to send us some information about his take on hemp and cannabis in the future, we would be glad to get that information out to you all. So that's why we have invited the Commissioner of Agriculture candidates for tonight's third Thursday. So let me tell you a little bit about Jenna Wadsworth. She was born in Raleigh, but grew up on her grandparents' farm in Johnston County, where they raised corn, soybeans, tobacco, cattle, cotton, and hogs. In November of 2010, at just 21, she was elected to a 4-year term on the Wake County Soil and Water Conservation District Board of Supervisors, and was the youngest woman ever elected to public office in North Carolina. She was reelected to the Wake County Soil and Conservation District Board of Supervisors in November 2018, and was elected vice chair of the board in spring of 2015. If she is elected, she will again make history in North Carolina by becoming the first out LGBTQ constitutional officer in the state of North Carolina. So a lot of firsts. We're very excited to welcome you tonight. Yes, you are here.
Thank you so much. Should I just chat for a few minutes with y'all? And okay. Thank you for having me. I'm so sorry. I know I've got like a towel and an apron on. I just came from another event where I was actually making a political event where I was actually making homemade Southern buttermilk biscuits on camera while talking about cannabis policy and how we could change the landscape for our farmers here in North Carolina. So again, my name is Jenna Wadsworth. I am the Democratic nominee for North Carolina Commissioner of Agriculture. And yes, I did grow up on a hog, cow, chicken, corn, cotton, tobacco, and soybean farm on a dirt road in Johnston County. And I'm still active in the operations of that farm today with my father. And this past season alone, I planted over 45 rows of fruits and vegetables that were 50 linear feet long each, in addition to having fruit trees and nut trees and grapevines. So agriculture is in my blood. It's very personal, deeply personal why I'm running for this race. There's really not many viable economic opportunities for a lot of our small farmers who largely haven't had an advocate in this office in a long time. And if we're being frank, the situation for small farmers in particular is worse now than what it was 15 years ago. There's a lack of real guidance, a lack of real support and funding opportunities, a lack of talking about new crop markets and opportunities, which is, I know, why we're going to talk about cannabis. Every time the current president opens his mouth, we seem to get into a new trade war. And so, it's very, very hard being a farmer, and it's already one of the hardest jobs there is. And all of that's made a little bit more difficult by having a commissioner who doesn't believe that climate change is real, which is not who I am. And so when I talk about my platform in general, some might even say I am the most progressive candidate running statewide for any office, because not only do I talk about cannabis legalization, which is something that I've been very vocal on since day one, but I talk about climate change and environmental justice. I talk about what's happening to our Black farmers. I talk about what's happening to our Latino farm workers and largely undocumented workforce in our meatpacking plant who are contracting COVID at even higher rates than the rest of the population right now. So I talk about social, economic, and environmental justice. And I made a pledge early on not to accept any corporate PAC money. I'm also the only statewide candidate who signed a pledge to not accept any fossil fuel money or money from their executives. And so, you know, I want to prove to folks that we can do things differently. We can move an industry into the future and give people viable economic opportunities while also doing social good and doing right by other members in our community. And when I talk about new crop markets for our small farmers that are struggling, and every time we turn around, they are experiencing something called farm stress. I encourage you to check out what ECU is doing on that. And as a result of that, and lack of other opportunities or lack of admitting that climate change is the root cause of so many of the issues that they're facing, we are seeing farmers in the southeastern United States in particular go bankrupt at record rates. And as a result of that, they're committing suicide at unprecedented rates. And I know that's really uncomfortable and not bright and cheery to talk about, but the reality is it's a crisis in the agricultural community that people with the institutional knowledge to produce food are feeling hopeless and helpless enough to end their life. And so it is absolutely critical that we give them new economic opportunities and we lift this industry back up. And, you know, hemp should have been this great savior, right? We've lost like 98% of our tobacco trading market with China in recent years. We knew after the 2014 federal farm bill that hemp was going to become legal, but instead we sat on our hands. We waited until after the 2018 federal farm bill, and that's when the commissioner created a division within the department to oversee the new hemp industry. And he didn't create any market opportunities or pathways to market for these folks, whether they were doing the fiber or the flower. You know, I also think the licensing process to get a hemp license in North Carolina is extremely discriminatory, especially for communities of color. If you ever had a controlled substance conviction, you're ineligible from participating in the market. Also, if you filed a Schedule C, like say you're a greenhouse or nursery operator, instead of having an FSA number or farm number, you're ineligible. If you didn't file your taxes last year on time, you're ineligible. And so there's a lot of hurdles and barriers to entry. And not just that, when you also talk about poor leadership and guidance, there were, and I'm probably telling y'all, I'm probably preaching to the choir, there were only about a dozen folks at last count that were overseeing this entire division for the thousands of farmers that were looking to transition into it. And they were responsible for the education, for the licensing, and for the THC testing. And so what we were seeing as a result of that were major backlogs in getting the flower tested. You have to have that done about 15 days before you're going to harvest it. And, you know, we even saw this in Wake County with our farmers, and the Commissioner of Agriculture's office and division is right here. But I talked to farmers in Western North Carolina or out east that are even further away. And because you only had a handful of folks that were responsible for all the testing, you were seeing folks fail the test because y'all know THC creeps. It increases, the field gets hot the longer that it stays in the ground. And as a result of that in North Carolina for the first 2 program years, my data shows that about 10% of farmers per year that were getting tested were failing the test. And as a result of that, they were having to bury or burn off their entire field. And I think that's absolutely heartbreaking that they were literally watching all of their hard work. Some of them leveraged all the equity they had just to get through this growing season after years of storm events, after years of, you know, seeing double-digit drops in the international commodity market, which has just been further exacerbated by COVID, by the way, and a lack of leadership, again, in the industry, both at the state and the federal level. They were literally watching all their hard work go up in flames. And I think 10% of people failing per year, that shouldn't be a reflection on the farmers. That's a reflection on the lack of education. That's a reflection on the lack of testing and protocols put in place on behalf of the current commissioner, who, by the way, when he was asked about hemp the other week in his UNC TV interview, was like, oh, you know, I don't know that it's not this market that everyone thought it was going to be. Well, I say that's his failure, because it could have been if you had created actual pipelines and market opportunities. For instance, the fiber. I mean, look, Henry Ford was using hemp fiber to build automobiles. I don't know if y'all ever saw that. I mean, you know, aerospace is also one of our biggest industries in North Carolina. People forget about that, but there are a lot of industrial uses for hemp. And when you want to talk about the flower and everything else being used for CBD, the fact that you have a commissioner who, by the way, one of the only 2 endorsements he's received this cycle compared to my 150, 200 right now is, I didn't mean for that to sound like a humble brag, but is the fact that he was supported by the State Troopers Association, and noticed that he's the one who remained silent when the smokable hemp bill ban came up as part of the farm plan, as part of the farm bill here in the legislature. You know, I think that a lot of these folks, including in law enforcement, SBI, and I have a lot of family on both sides that are members of law enforcement. I respect the hard work they do, but the reality is when they were fighting against the hemp ban, which also would have benefited farmers and small business owners, especially historically underutilized business owners that are participating in this hemp market, they were just using it as an excuse to pull somebody over, probably because of their skin color, was saying that they couldn't differentiate between hemp and marijuana if they pulled somebody over. And let's be honest about what's happening. I also want to say, before we go any further, I believe that Black Lives Matter. I believe Black farmers matter. I think that absolutely, and without any caveats. And what you're seeing here in North Carolina is a lack of opportunities, in particular for Black farmers. And that's a whole other piece to talk about, like the dirty discrimination in history on behalf of the USDA and the Farm Service Agency and predatory lending practices, or lack of access to loans and financial resources. And the North Carolina Department of Agriculture is really no different. You don't see the promotion of women or diverse voices, even within the department. Again, my opponent was speaking at a forum with us, with Rafi and a number of different farming organizations the other week. And when asked about Black farmers and creating new opportunities, he said that he had 4 Black employees in his small farms division, and that, it was really heartwarming that he met 2 Black farmers that their programs helped. I'm like, frankly, that's just not enough. And I'm someone who understands that you cannot be an effective leader, you cannot effectively govern from within an echo chamber where everyone else's experiences mirror your own. And I tell you that not just because of my commitment to diversity and transparency, but also the idea that people who are subject matter experts, people who work in the cannabis industry, people who have been lobbying and advocating for this from day one, people who work in hemp, people who do environmental justice work, Black farmers, farm workers, people in every different commodity group, they will have a seat at my table. I know that y'all know best the challenges that are being faced by the industry. You all are most up to date and abreast on the policy, and you understand what it's going to take to get us where we need to go to create a more just, sustainable, and equitable future for everyone who calls North Carolina home. I don't know if you want me to continue just a little bit to tell you about the cannabis piece. I know I feel like this is the problem whenever you give a politician the floor or the microphone. But I just want to say, I'm in support of legalization of cannabis, both medicinally and recreationally. I tell everybody the reality is it's already legal in 33 states plus DC. So it's not a question of if it's going to happen, it's a question of when. Although with the MORE Act being stalled, a vote on that being stalled right now, that's pretty upsetting, especially because of all the opportunities that would have been inherent in that. And the fact that the majority of Americans, the majority of North Carolinians are in support of legalization, especially amongst every age group. And that support, there's very little difference in the support, whether you're Republican or Democrat, the younger folks are. But I'm committed to making sure that when we do legalize, that we create a just and equitable industry here in North Carolina that actually works for North Carolinians. And that also includes working for our small farmers that call North Carolina home. I don't want big corporate out-of-state interests to come in and buy up large swaths of land, again, because of years of a dereliction of leadership on behalf of the current commissioner. I actually want our small farmers to be able to participate in the market. Maybe that means that we have an acreage allotment. Some people won't be happy about that, but I think that's kind of a fair way to do it. That also is really great for soil health because it encourages diversification of crops instead of just monoculture, which has become a very big problem, in particular down east. So it's just, again, to me, it's always about connecting all the dots, and then making sure that licenses aren't so expensive, prohibitively expensive, that it prices certain people out. Again, just like versus the hemp policy and licensing process that keeps basically Black folks and people of color from participating, that's not something I want to see happen with cannabis. Legalization is an opportunity, a real economic opportunity for our farmers who are well positioned to grow this. Let's be honest, there's probably a whole bunch of farmers in Western North Carolina that have been growing it for a very long time. It's a huge economic opportunity for our state. I think COVID-19 has created some major budget shortfalls because there's not travel and tourism. I'm someone that believes that our budget should absolutely reflect our values and priorities, and the additional tax revenue that could come in as a result of legalization. I mean, looking at what Michigan and Illinois did in the first week alone this year after legalization, would be a way to be able to fund the things that matter, like public education and public benefit. I think legalization also holds the opportunity to revitalize rural communities, reduce brain drain, the fact that opioid epidemic to talk about healthcare, especially for seniors with, chronic health conditions, to talk about certain healthcare for some children with rare seizure disorders, and perhaps most excitingly, I think that legalization holds the promise of helping us begin to achieve true social justice for communities of color who have been disproportionately criminalized and locked up on the basis of possession charges for too long in this country. Part of that's because of the criminal justice system being broken too, and more often than not, Black defendants ending up with public defenders, and on no fault of the public defenders who have a very heavy caseload and are already overburdened, they just plead out. And then we're seeing Black folks end up in prisons. I mean, this is also talking about abolishing private prisons. We can go all into that too. But, my thing is, you cannot tell me that it is not a social justice and social equity issue. That right now we have Black men sitting in prison for doing something that's legal in a propensity of other states across this nation, and now they're more likely to contract COVID-19. Because I think it is a social justice and social equity issue. I think it is a failure of members of the legislature, honestly, of both parties who haven't moved on this for years, despite the number of cannabis bills like 401 and 1143 that just have continued to die. That's why I'm committed to, when we legalize, also advocating for decriminalization. I mean, look, Virginia already did it, and dismissal of past misdemeanor possession charges, because I think that's the only way to begin to combat the school to prison pipeline and give children an opportunity to grow up with both their parents. I'm also committed to looking at the opportunity, instead of just using the ABC network for distribution, to talk about the ability to use historically underutilized businesses and allow communities of color to truly benefit from a market that so long we've seen used against them.
Great. Really appreciate your coming on tonight and talking with us. Has anyone checked the Facebook to see if there's any questions from the audience?
I don't see any on Facebook right now. I can toss one your way though. So I've reached out to plenty of statewide officials before about this issue, about cannabis legalization, and about what they can do to help us. And a pretty common response is, we're not in the legislature. What are we going to do about it? That's what the General Assembly is for. So what can you do from your position to make a difference?
Yeah, great question. Again, success and change doesn't always happen in a vacuum, right? You have to have collaborators, and you have to coordinate with other industries and institutions. I've been very vocal early on about how cannabis it's one of the biggest parts of my platform. I mean, we need that, climate change, bridging the urban rural divide, and talking about our farm workers. And when I've been so unabashedly unapologetic about cannabis legalization, folks know that. I'm not going to backtrack on that topic. And so I reached out to a number of folks running for the legislature throughout the state, and I've been endorsed by a number of sitting legislators. I'm like, look, this is like, one of those things that we're ever going to work together. This is one of those things I will not move on, and that is going to happen. But I think having someone in the Council of State, first of all, in a real position of power or leadership in your executive branch, who is committed to making sure that this happens, and also committed to creating an equitable and just industry, is absolutely crucial, and especially the agricultural industry, because it is a plant. It is an agricultural product. So also, when you talk about the licensing process, when you talk about, there will probably be a board and commission, just like there was with hemp, that I will get to make the appointments to. I will be the person who is talking about trade and market opportunities, talking about like interstate commerce and how we deal with that. That will all kind of run through my office. Everything from licensing to testing to, the other thing is, a lot of folks don't realize the North County Department of Agriculture, it's also the North County Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. So I also see my role as being a consumer watchdog and making sure that you're getting a high quality product. And so all of that and that testing and stuff and purity tests will also come through, or in part be involve the Commissioner of Agriculture's office. So I hope that kind of helps.
Yeah. Great.
I have to confess, I halfway knew the answer to that one. I just figured maybe you could tell the rest of the folks that they do have some power and should help.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you've got an important pulpit. And the other thing about the Commissioner of Agriculture's office is, I mean, you have a whole press and marketing department too. So if you want to talk about really highlighting the growers and the industries and the opportunities, we have a marketing department within Department of Ag. Not just that, but like, I mean, you're more likely to get attention or press and raise awareness if you have a platform where your press releases are actually gonna get carried by a paper, right? Or you can hold a press conference and it'll go on TV, or you can go sit down and knowledgeably talk about this with a news anchor. So it absolutely does matter the face of the industry and knowing that the person who is sitting in this role shares your values and priorities. I do want to also, if anybody has any questions or wanting more information, I would say my website is just jennawadsworth.com, and you can find me. I probably spend more time talking about legalization or actual topics either on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or now TikTok, because I have very talented but much younger staffers who, and I know that's saying something as the millennial young candidate, the youngest candidate running statewide, who have been pushing for me to get involved on TikTok in a while. So if you're TikTok, Instagram, or Twitter, it's at Jenna Wadsworth, and then Facebook is at Jenna Wadsworth NC.
Terrific. Thank you so much for your time tonight, and look forward to
don't forget to vote.
You got it.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Have a great one.
Share. Hit the share button.
And a lot of great information. And before we leave tonight, I do want to mention again that we are nonpartisan organization. We are not endorsing any candidates. Having Ms. Wadsworth on tonight was not an endorsement of her campaign, and we do want to offer Commissioner Troxler the opportunity to send a statement that we will be able, so that we can publish that. But we do want to educate our followers and fans and the people who believe that NC Normal is a valuable organization. We do, the main thing that we want to do here is to get people to understand who they want to vote for, who they want to work for, if they want to work for candidates. Get out there and register to vote, and get out there and vote, and get your friends and family too as well.
Well said.
All right.
Thanks, y'all.
Have a great one. Thanks.